also have some chairs available inside. You're welcome to come inside and take a seat. You get a much better view. I think in the back it's a little bit difficult to see everything that's going on. Good morning, my name is Albert Garcia. I'm the chairman and co-founder of the Wynwood Business Improvement District. On behalf of our board of directors, I want to welcome you to the Lightbox at Goldman Warehouse today for an emergency meeting that has been called this morning. I'm sure many of you have been reading and hearing, and perhaps are even a part of, what has become, I think, a boiling point in this neighborhood's, short renaissance, really, when you look back at the last 15 years. Throughout that course of time, there's always been disagreements, a healthy discourse about where we came from, what do we want to be as a community, and where are we headed. So a lot of what we're going to hear today is going to center around that. But it's also an opportunity for this community to also express their viewpoints, their thoughts, their opinions for their elected representatives, the board of directors of the Wynwood BID, that represent the businesses and the property owners that comprise this beautiful 50-city block district. I want to start off, before we officially convene the meeting here with our board of directors, to welcome some of our city officials, including our elected representatives, who have so graciously made it a point to come join us today. First, we have our city mayor, Francis Suarez. We also have our two district commissioners, Chairman Keon Hardiman and Vice Chairman of the City Commission, Ken Russell. I see Ken Russell, I believe Chairman Hardiman. I saw him earlier. If you put your hand up. I don't know where you... Oh, there you are! You're hiding. No, he's not hiding. He's right there. Have a seat if you'd like, gentlemen, when you're ready. So they're here today, as well as a few other officials. Chief of City Police, Chief Kalina is here. The new city manager, Art Noriega, seated here to the left of our city mayor. So before we get started, our mayor has to go on. He obviously has a city to lead. He's been so kind as to join me here on stage. He's going to grab a seat here momentarily next to me. And he wants to share a few words. And before we get started, I just want to point out that the mayor and I have been communicating regularly over the last 14 days or so about the state of the neighborhood. He also made it a point to attend our last regularly scheduled big meeting, where he heard from many of you. I see a lot of faces that were present at that meeting about their concerns, their legitimate concerns. And I wanted to give the mayor an opportunity to repeat a lot of the things he said at that meeting, since now we have a much larger audience. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Albert. I'm sorry that I have to step out of our meeting in City Hall at 9:45, so I'll be very brief. And I did attend the last bid meeting, where I did hear a lot of the concerns that the community has been expressing. Obviously, we are at an inflection point with Wynwood. I was a city commissioner when we approved the NRD, which was a neighborhood revitalization district, which called for a plan for how Wynwood was going to develop. And we have stuck to that plan in terms of development. Where things get complicated is activities and things that are happening in the city. And obviously we are conscientious of the fact that we have seen other neighborhoods like South Beach and Coconut Grove experience similar situations. And we as a city, we want to strike that balance between making sure that this community continues to thrive in the way that it was envisioned and created as an arts and adaptive reuse community that now has layered on top of it multifamily residential, and also has a thriving nightlife and is a thriving convening point. We know that Wynwood is, in social media, one of the most searched for neighborhoods in the world. And I think that's something that is a credit to all of you who are here today that have made this the very wonderful neighborhood that it is. Jessica did such a good job with the Super Bowl. Thank you so much for that, for curating that experience. And I think this has been a curated neighborhood. And so what we have to do as a city, and our city managers here recently unanimously appointed city manager Art Noriega. We have two wonderful commissioners that are here and are focusing the city side of this issue, is to make sure that our laws are adequate to serve the vision of Wynwood. And I think what we want in the city to hear from you is, to the maximum extent possible, what is your vision? Understanding that there are possible conflicts and that there are opportunities for people to have conversations and to also have dialogue and compromise. Because I do think that this is a neighborhood that is growing incredibly fast, and what we want to do is make sure that we continue to foster that and not do anything that destroys what all of you have taken so much time, and so much energy, and so much capital, and risk so much to create. We're conscientious of what the issues are, obviously the noise being one of the issues, obviously the brick and mortar versus a food truck dynamic, which is another issue, and many other issues as well, businesses that are operating without licensing or things of that nature, late night code enforcement. So we have been acting very proactively. Sometimes, and this is a very good reporter asking me this question, sometimes some people argue we don't act enough, and then sometimes we act and some people think that we're acting too much. And so that's the delicate balance that we as a city have to try to strike. And so again, I unfortunately have to go, but I'm leaving you with our city manager who will be quarterbacking this issue going forward. Someone who's very capable. If you don't know him, you should, because he's been a 20-year department director in the city and has done a tremendous amount in our city to help us become the truly global city that we are. And make no mistake about it, this is a global city, and Wynwood is the epitome of a global neighborhood. And so it is very much on the forefront of our minds to make sure that we don't do anything that will hinder or stop the progress of this amazing neighborhood. So thank you all for your time and attention. I wish I could stay longer, but I will be available to listen, to come up with whether it's a reform of the NRD, like what I call NRD 2.0, or whether it's just a reform of our laws to bring them up to date with a neighborhood that is growing at an incredible pace. The city of Miami, just to give you some quick statistics, is doing phenomenally well. We grew my first year as mayor 8.5%. My second year as mayor, we grew 10.5%. We lowered taxes to the second lowest millage rate in 55 years. My first year, we had the lowest homicide rate in half a century, and my second year, and our chief is here, who's done a magnificent job, and his commander was here as well. We lowered our homicide rate to the lowest rate in 55 years. So it's been the safest time in my lifetime. We have the best bond rating as well. So in terms of the way the city's operating, we have the best bond rating and adequate reserves. So the city's doing very, very well. And from the outside, everybody sees Miami, particularly after the Super Bowl, and it's like, man, this place is heaven, and it is heaven. But as with all great things, there are tension points, and we have to properly manage those tension points so that they don't blow up what is something that is an incredible neighborhood. I can tell you that it is painful for us in the city to watch, the infighting, because we don't think it's productive and we don't think it's helpful to the brand that you guys have all spent so much time and energy creating. And so my hope is, to the extent that I can demonstrate leadership on this issue, bring the parties together, try to create consensus, tone down the rhetoric and tone down some of the what's going on, and really focus on preserving this amazing brand that you guys have created. We don't want to do anything that negatively impacts Miami's brand. We don't want to do anything that negatively impacts Wynwood brand. I can tell you that they're both at a very, very high point right now. So thank you for listening, and I will be following up with our manager, with our councilmen, with our commissioners on what actions we'll be taking after this meeting and after other meetings that we have to do today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. So, for those of you that have never been to a bid board meeting, I can promise you they're never as interesting as they probably will be today on the matter of the tension and the topics that we're going to be discussing. So I also want to take a moment to thank each and every single one of you for coming here. I see a lot of business owners here that surely have to open their doors to business, and many times are usually the only person in their business that's there to unlock those doors. So we are also conscious of the time. So typically what happens in a board meeting, the board convenes, we go through our agenda, which we're about to do. We are a board of the City of Miami. We were created in 2013 through the establishment of a special taxing district. This was created really for one and one reason only, to give the stakeholders of this community really the responsibility but also the privilege of truly being in control of their destiny, and what they wanted this neighborhood to become. So property owners agreed to self-levy a tax. In addition to all the taxes they're already paying to the county, the state, etc., those dollars go to the bid. That's our primary source of revenue to, over the course of many years, to support programs that promote the neighborhood and that also increase the life safety and security of our community. That's why this neighborhood, through its robust growth, has also been very stable, has never been a much more welcoming place no matter what walk of life you come from. We've never had a lower crime rate in Wynwood, to the mayor's point, but in Wynwood specifically, crime is at an all-time low, and that is due in large part to the leadership from Chief Kalina and the Wynwood Net Commander Dan Kerr, who's in the back of the room. So we're going to convene, and I'm going to walk you through because, again, many of you have never been here, so we obviously know what's going on, but I'm also going to, along the way, ensure that everybody here who wants to speak gets an opportunity to be heard. So if you come here to say a few words or a long speech, I'm going to ask you to be considerate of everyone's time. But if you came here to be heard, you will be heard. There are going to be microphones that are positioned here. There's going to be a time where we're going to call for public comments. The board will obviously have an opportunity to speak. And hopefully by the end of today, we'll have an understanding of what comes next. I don't want to put the commissioners on the spot, but if they wanted to say a few words, they're welcome to as well, or later during the program. So everyone, this is the chairman of the City of Miami Commission, our District 5 Commissioner, Keon Hardeman.
Good morning, everyone. I hate to be the bearer of bad news in this situation, but the Wynwood bid noticed this meeting as an emergency meeting, which is perfectly fine. Unfortunately, the City of Miami Commissioners didn't notice the meeting as a meeting where more than one of us were going to be together taking in facts. And the reason I'm bringing this up to you because it could be a potential sunshine law violation against us, because we're taking in information that could potentially be used in a city commission meeting, so we could possibly take action. It's even more apparent when you hear the mayor describe facts where he says that something could come from this, something could come from this. Well, you know, that's a clear sign that there's a potential sunshine law violation if we remain. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to excuse myself. I still have staff here that can listen. You know, we have the video, and I'll take a look at that. And I'll be going to also the next meeting that they have at 4 o'clock. So I'll be there. So I don't expect Commissioner Russell to be there. But I need to leave because we cannot have that violation of sunshine law. To do so will be detrimental to both commissioners. Okay?
Thank you, Chairman Hardeman. Just for the record, our meeting was publicly noticed with the city clerk over a week ago, and there might be some issues that we're not aware of, so we certainly respect and understand the chairman's position, but just to be very clear, we are a board of the city. Our meeting was publicly noticed. Elected officials are welcome to be present. So with that being said, we're going to actually officially begin the meeting. So typically these meetings have an agenda. They happen every month, typically on the second Wednesday of each month. They don't occur here, unfortunately, because we don't have that much interest. Typically, we're kind of a boring bunch. We talk about policy, we talk about the state of security in the neighborhood. So we typically start the meeting with a roll call of the directors. So typically everybody just says their name and they're called, for being present. Today, because we have so many different faces in the audience, in addition to your name, what I'd like for you to briefly do is just, in a sentence or less, give us, your brief history in the neighborhood so that everybody here also understands your perspective and why you're now a volunteer serving on this board of directors at the Wynwood Bay. So we're going to start off to my far right, and we're going to do our roll call and work our way to the left. So we'll start with Leslie.
Hi everyone, my name is Leslie Sharp. I'm the General Counsel and Vice President for MANA. And this is Marlo.
My name is Marlo Courtney. I am the Senior Managing Director of Golden Properties. I have had my experience here in Wynwood started in 2004 when our when our company, Goldman Properties, began to purchase properties here, and we are more or less a very romantic development company, and we take pride in the way that we come into a neighborhood and transform a neighborhood and look to have others that are part of a neighborhood buy into a common vision. And we are thrilled that we are part of this wonderful cultural, artistic scene here in Wynwood that is going through some changes and transformation, but I have great hope that we are going to come out in a very positive way. Thank you.
John Paul Perez, Executive Vice President of Related Group. We've been in the neighborhood now about 5 years. We built Wynwood 25. We have multiple other properties here. We couldn't be more excited to be a part of the neighborhood and to see what the future holds. Obviously, we were drawn to the culture, the entertainment, the fun, and I think this will be a thriving neighborhood in the near future.
So again, Albert Garcia, Chairman, Co-founder of the Wynwood Bid. I've had the privilege of serving on this organization now since its inception, but my history also kind of predates everybody here at the table, and maybe most, if not all of you in the room today. I represent a second, legacy generation family that had their roots in this neighborhood going back to the 1970s when we were a bustling, world-renowned industrial manufacturing district that was very creatively putting out garments and fashion apparel that was servicing the economic engine of South Florida well into the Caribbean and South America. So we certainly were here at a different high point in the neighborhood's history, and also lived and experienced and worked through its probably lowest point in its history, which was in the 90s when this neighborhood largely was vacant. And when Tony Goldman and others like David Lombardi came in here and started to talk about what could be and the future, we at first thought they were crazy. We're like, who's going to come here and look at street art? You can't even pay somebody to walk in here. Most of these warehouses have barbed wire on their gates, security guards in their parking lots, but they were right, and thank God, because what they ushered in was a true remarkable miracle from an urban planning standpoint. It was a true renaissance sparked by street art. So we're eternally grateful to Goldman Properties and that family, but I have to say, we never saw this coming. So for me personally, it's a journey that I've been a part of all my life, and we've also seen where this neighborhood came from at its dark point, and we work very hard to make sure we don't relive through those dark points again in the future.
My name is Irv Lerner. My roots go back to the 1950s.
You got me beat.
I used to come down here with my father when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. Go to his office. It was his shop. He was in the garment district. He owned industrial sewing machines. He set up the sweatshops. He was intelligent businessman. He built buildings down here, and I experienced that. And I came and worked for him on summers. But he never wanted me to be part of this. He wanted me to be a doctor, like most Jewish parents. But I went through the recessions and the riots and the bad times, and I did become a doctor, but I became a veterinarian. So that's my chosen profession. It's not really work. I call it play. I love my job. But in the year 2000, my father had already passed away. My mother couldn't take care of her real estate holdings here, so I took over, and it was like, stealing the copper out of the air conditioners. There was illegal activity. There was no code down here. It was people just doing laissez-faire. It's construction. But again, it was a legacy thing. I saw my father built this small little empire. I didn't want to sell. Thank God I didn't. In the year 2000, I was around David Lombardi. I met him back then. I had the honor of meeting Tony Goldman. We had these little meetings talking, about it has to be safe, it has to be clean down here, otherwise nobody's coming. And I was always trying to get better tenants. And thank God, this whole renaissance has taken hold. It's been a real honor and an education, learning about, it's a whole different language, learning about TUPs, SUPs, TDRs, and all those whole things. It's a real civic education for me. But I take pride in the attendance here and trying to improve the area, and it's really a dream for me. I was born and raised in Miami. People used to say Miami, no one wanted to come down here. When I was in Gainesville, they said it was afraid to come down here. No one wanted to come. Now it's a cool place. So I really take pride in this area, and I hope we can all do well.
Good morning, my name is Glenn Morgan. I'm a partner at the Fate Group, and we own and operate a lot of real estate in South Florida, specifically Soho Studios, in the southeast quadrant of Wynwood. I would love to say my roots were from here, but they're not. But I've been coming here since I've been a kid, and I've loved coming to South Florida, and the Wynwood area has just been has seen this profound movement, and we are eternally grateful to the Goldman family. They have done amazing things here, so thank you. And I just, when we first bought real estate here, and specifically in the Wynwood area, I remember thinking, wow, this really is a derelict area, that's sort of gritty chic, so to speak. And I remember drinking coffee and Panther coffee, thinking, well, why is there a line out here? It's going down the block. It's always had a certain energy. Eating Joey's, the restaurant, people would just come there. There was nothing else around, it's just been amazing, and to be a part of the movement here. And I just wanted to thank everyone here. And I look forward to serving you guys.
Good morning, I'm David Charette, and I have a bachelor's in architecture, and my parents are school teachers, and they started traveling when I was 2 months. I've been traveling all over due to them, and have a passion for design, and I love that on the Wynwood, obviously the Wynwood board, but also the bid. And we see a lot of the projects coming through, and it's delightful to be able to talk about what's going to happen, what has happened. I've also won scholarships to Warsaw and Florence, and lived overseas multiple times. The last 2 years was in Beirut before coming here working on projects in Saudi Arabia. And we did a lot of master planning with Perkins and Well, and also Smith Group, JJ&R. So I have a long history since 1995 of designing urban environments, corporate campuses, higher education, and it's really exciting to also work on a community green competition, among others, to look at what makes a thriving neighborhood. Obviously, we've had terrible urban issues in the 70s, and we've learned a lot about what is the right way to do urban planning and diversity, the idea of different groups, business, work, play, how that contributes to a great urban environment. So I'm really excited about, I have a passion for design, I always have, and I think that that's something I will always have and encourage. For Miami, obviously this is becoming the center of the world. We're bringing the best architects and urban planners here, and that's absolutely incredible. Everyone wants to work here, and I think that says a lot about the city.
Coil Taco and 1-800 Lucky. Been in the neighborhood for about 6.5 years. We chose Wynwood, obviously the same reason why everyone else did. It's such a vibrant and beautiful neighborhood that we decided to start our first business here. We started on 2nd Avenue, Coil Taco. This is our flagship. We've opened 10 locations worldwide in 4 different countries because of Wynwood, because of our popularity here, and hope to continue to grow. And we really wear this neighborhood as a badge of honor, and really love Wynwood and represent it worldwide with all of our future openings. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Gabriele Braha. I come from Italy, and it's the first time that I talk in English in front of so many people, so sorry for my English. I'm principal of Red Group, an investment company, and I've been in the neighborhood for the past 3.5 years. Very exciting to be part of this community, and we have few developments that we're working hard to bring to life, and hopefully we will be in addition to the amazing vibe that there is in this neighborhood.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Manny Gonzalez. I am the Executive Director of the Wynwood Bid, also known as the unqualified person in this position. So, just so you know, because obviously I haven't had an opportunity to introduce myself or defend myself, because, you know, there's people out there actively, you know, doing their thing. But I began in 2009 at the Coconut Grove Business Improvement District. That was the first improvement district in the city of Miami. David Collins back there was the one that hired me as project coordinator. I then became executive director at 33 years old in 2012. Ever since every annual review I've ever had from now to then, I've had 95 or over. And my job is a difficult one because I am the shield that protects all of the businesses and everyone in here. I'm the person that stops, you know, the city, that leaves you almost protected because you report something to me, and it is my duty to then report it to the city. Unfortunately, with everything that's going on right now, it's a travesty that the city allows it to happen. The city allows it to defame my name. No one stops it. And I hope that after today, everybody's going to have a better idea of the truth and what's really going out there. And my job has always been to defend the residents, the property owners, the safety, and the citizens. And my record speaks for itself. Thank you.
So we do have an agenda, so I'm going to start off, Chairman's privilege, to give an address to all of you, the community, and then we are going to open it up to start hearing from those of you that are here today. What I'm going to ask from our board is that we try not to get into a tit for tat with people. We may hear things that we agree with, we may hear things we don't. Same applies to those of you here. Let's be respectful, let's be open-minded. You also may hear things you don't agree with, things you may think are false. But this opportunity, this is a safe space where everybody has to feel respected, and when they leave today, hopefully feel that they were heard. So I did put out a memo on behalf of the board to the community earlier this week. It was sent on email. It's currently on the homepage of wynwoodmiami.com if you haven't had a chance to see it. I'm going to read it now into the record officially here at the bid, because I think there's a lot of things that are circling in the wind that need to be addressed. Over the past year, Wynwood business owners and residents have been voicing serious and legitimate complaints to the City of Miami officials about the non-enforcement of repeated and multiple zoning code and noise ordinance violations at Manor Wynwood, which have negatively impacted local businesses who play by the rules. In response to these reasonable concerns, the City of Miami enforced existing rules and closed the Wynwood Marketplace through the issuance of a new temporary use permit on February 14th until it complies with the same rules, regulations, and ordinances that govern all businesses, whether permanent, temporary, or driven by a special event in our neighborhood. Since then, rather than comply with the rules, the principals at Manor Wynwood have launched, alongside Swarm, an event production company that is responsible for the operations and management of the Wynwood Marketplace and other activities at Manor Wynwood, in launching a smear campaign rife with misinformation, exaggeration, and personal threats, in an apparent effort to intimidate city and police officials into ignoring the obvious violations on the property. We want to make it very clear. I want to make it very clear. The Wynwood bid, this board of directors that you just heard from, has never, ever in its 7-year history proposed or even entertained the notion of closing nightlife venues or any businesses for that matter at 11 p.m. To the contrary, if you come to our meetings, you would know year after year that we're opposed to an 11 p.m. closure. In fact, over the last several years, the bid has and continues to be the strongest advocate working on behalf of all of our restaurants, bars, and nightlife venues to ensure that the City of Miami Commission extends alcohol hours until 5 p.m. in Wynwood on an annual basis during special occasions, including Art Week, New Year's, Music Week, and we even did it last month for the Super Bowl. That said, this organization stands on its record and has always stood that if everyone does their part to follow the rules and support the vibrant, diverse nature of our neighborhood, all stakeholders, whether it's nightlife, residents, office users, or visitors, including all of these new projects that are coming online, can thrive and coexist in Wynwood. I also want to make a point to clarify some personal comments regarding Mr. Moishmana, who I want to point out isn't here today. He has a representative on the board. He always has in the history of the organization, and he's hosting his own community event this afternoon. I encourage everyone to attend at 4 p.m. and listen to what he has to say and what his team has to say. But Mr. Mana is a respected commercial property owner in the city of Miami. He happens to also be, of course, the largest property owner in Wynwood. He's always been welcome to share his personal opinions with the Wynwood bid. I wish we would have seen him more often. Truth be told, he hasn't been to a big board meeting in over 5 years. Several of his executives, including Leslie, who I respect immensely, especially these last 2 weeks. I'm sure for her it's got to be incredibly difficult watching all of these, back and forth comments in the media and in private. But I want to say that they have served with the utmost class and respect and dedication on this board of directors, as did her predecessor, Dylan Finger, who also before her served on this board and is still affiliated with Mana Wynwood. But in that history, most of our votes have been unanimous. There's never been any expressed concern about where we're headed as a neighborhood, that residential isn't compatible in the neighborhood. Back in 2015, you heard reference to the NRD. You're going to hear that a lot perhaps today and in the coming days and weeks. That stands for Neighborhood Revitalization District Plan, NRD. And that is a set of zoning conditions that were approved by the City of Miami Commission that were worked on alongside the City of Miami Planning Department and the Wynwood bid. And that was enacted back in 2015. We had dozens of public meetings at the time to get input from the community, and that kind of set the stage for a lot of the development that you're seeing coming into the neighborhood today. Regrettably, Mr. Mana has taken it upon himself and other associates to send threatening phone calls and text messages to the BID's executive director, to the Wynwood Net Police Commander, Dan Kerr, who's in the back, and to countless other city officials, which is really, I think, unbecoming of the largest property owner in the city of Miami and any member of our community. I just think it's just not right. It's just not polite, it's not respectful, and I think the bid has always conducted itself with the utmost decorum, so we welcome different opinions, certainly. This is the place to kind of work through those things. The public servants that serve this community deserve our respect, our appreciation. They're imperfect beings, they're human after all, but they're a reflection of the input they get from this community. They don't go rogue, they don't have their own agendas contrary to what you may have heard or seen, and they do reflect the priorities of this board, and we believe as extensions, as your representatives of what you want to see from us. We accept that in any community, including ours, of course, there's going to be differences of opinion. Business owners, residents, the state of our neighborhood, are we losing our soul? Was a headline I saw in the Miami Herald this morning. The direction we're headed. I think there's a lot of passion, clearly. All of you here, I think, are a testament to that. But that's why the Wynwood bid was created to begin with. It was to foster community, to build consensus, and to plan for Wynwood's future. It all begins and ends with the simple premise that working together with a shared vision, we can and will continue to proudly lead the renaissance of our 50-city block district. So now what I'd like to do is have folks that are in the audience. Some of you may have had prepared comments, statements, ideas, things you've heard today, things you want to have us perhaps address later on to clear up the air. So we invite you to come up to any of these two microphones. We're going to call upon you. You'll have an opportunity to address the board and the public. In the meantime, while people come up to the microphones, I also want to inform our board members, because obviously this is the first time we've had a chance to reconvene in the past almost 2.5 weeks. I've had the privilege and the opportunity to sit down with many property and business owners that have reached out. I think one thing that has come out of this conflict, if we're going to call it that, or this disagreement, is that in many ways, in my opinion, it has brought this community together in ways that I haven't seen it come together since we were faced with another challenge not too long ago, which was Zika. You know, this notion of nightlife versus residents, even bar owners against other bar owners, feeling that they're being attacked by code, by police, that it's the bid that's giving these instructions. I think all of that are myths that we look forward to clarifying, but I want to actually commend, in particular, the nightlife sector, because they've been having a rough, ride over the last 2 weeks. Well, I'm happy to say that they've actually come together, and these are very competitive businesses, as you know, these clubs, these bars, and they formed the Wynwood Restaurant and Bar Association. They've elected a president, a vice president, and the bid looks forward to working alongside that organization and all of our business partners, again, to get it right. So I believe Adam Gersten, who's at the microphone, wanted to be heard. So what we're going to ask of each and every single one of you that comes up to speak is to first, of course, introduce yourself and the business or the property that you own in the neighborhood. So we'll start with Mr. Gersten.
My name.
We're going to ask the board to hold off, and the board will get to speak after.
My name is Adam Gersten. Some of you have known me for a while. Some of you may have not known me. I own Grams. I'm a fourth generation Miamian. Both sides of my family here go back a ways in different sectors that I actually have not really any part of, real estate and law. I am still an attorney, but I don't practice. Haven't been in the courtroom in over 10 years, so you have to forgive me today. I have a lot to say. I'm sorry. And I've tried my best to organize my thoughts, and all I ask is, as a stakeholder, and not a property owner, as a business owner and an employer, to be heard, because I look around the room and I know that there are so many people in this room who have given everything to operate their business here. And it's funny because we're focused on the struggle right now, and what we're dealing with right now. As Albert mentioned, for example, we went through Zika. Lord knows what we may be going through in the next few weeks, unfortunately, or months, with other things on the horizon. And certainly when it comes to code enforcement and clarity from people that may be in a position that have more authority than we do, this is certainly not the first time that we've had to deal with this. And all we've always ever asked, and thankfully I have to say that, and one of the things that's come out of this, sorry, before I can get into my prepared remarks, but one of the great things that's come out of this is that just in the last couple of weeks, people that have never spoken to each other in the same industry, literally next door to each other, have come together, been able to share their stories and the problems that they've had and all that kind of thing. And also to understand that there are people actually on the bid, which I think was viewed as like the principal in school, that some of those people understand, maybe all of them, I don't know yet, what we go through day to day to just keep the doors open. So with that. And also, I wasn't sure what the audience was going to be here, and I know that many of you are property owners, there are business owners, but I also know the media's here, and so just, I don't know how many people are just literally public trying to get information. I don't see a lot of Save Wynwood t-shirts on, so I don't know.
I may be speaking to that audience in a different way, but just to lay a little more background from someone who's not a prior property owner and legislatively. So we live in a county, and in the county we have cities, municipalities, but mostly cities. And within this city we have districts. We have 5 districts, and within this district we have neighborhoods. And I think something that's happening more and more now is our neighborhoods are coalescing and growing, and there's a lot of pressure on each neighborhood. So I think that as we talk about what's happening here today, we're talking about what's actually happening in Little River, in Little Haiti. It's not just here. This is a conversation that everyone's going to have at some point. And I would say, based on our experience here, it's better to, no matter what you don't want to hear, whether you're a developer or a landlord or a business owner, you have to listen to what the other side is saying, because there are canaries in the coal mine in each neighborhood. And so a lot of this stuff now is sort of the culmination of things that we saw coming down and now we have to deal with. As Albert said, over the last 20 years, Wynwood has dug itself out, sort of rebirthed as a, I hate to, this is the worst cliche, but the live, work, play cliche, but really, the reason that I chose to come here was that its proximity to both the bridges to Miami Beach, to the airport. I didn't give a crap about graffiti or wall art or any of the things that now is so revered. I just liked where it was, and I wanted to be able to serve guests, and I saw a coffee shop, and I saw Joey's, and I saw streets and blocks that were walkable, and I said, this is what we've been waiting for. And as a person who's been involved in nightlife, whether I've been in school, out of school, lawyer, not lawyer, there's no question that all of the pieces of what makes a neighborhood great existed and have been enhanced by everyone's hard work over the last 20 years. So, whether it's the Goldmans, whether it's the galleries that have obviously since many of them left, they've left a legacy. I would say the data would show, whether it's price per square foot, unfortunately for the tenants, the property owners, foot traffic, parking revenue, tax revenue. It is clear that Wynwood is a success. And the most important thing, one could argue, if you take the art on the walls, the great weather, the smaller blocks with more and more paseos actually, which is also something that the bid got right for sure, is that people are coming to Wynwood to be outside. That's it, right? That's the whole thing. They're gonna live upstairs, but they wanna be outside. They're going to travel to Wynwood to look at the walls. They're going to travel to Wynwood to go to bars, restaurants, cafes that have an outdoor component. So that's an undeniable fact. And obviously, over time, as more residents come, and they are coming, and that is set in stone. The delusion that somehow that's not gonna happen, it's a delusion, it's madness. People want to live where they like to be, and that offers amenities, and we have worked so hard to offer those amenities. I would also say that, more than ever now, you see that this is a multi-pillared collaborative effort over a long period of time. A brief comment on special area plans. Brickell City Center is not made up of multiple pillars of the community working together, whether it be this association, that association. That's a development company, right, that does that. Smart Properties and others, I guess. I can't remember if World Center is an SAP or a MUSP or something like that, but those are not made up of a we, a collective we. Magic City is not a we. Eastside Ridge probably will never be a we. But this has been a group effort. And what I think also is super important to think about is we're acting somehow like this doesn't exist anywhere. That somehow having bars, restaurants, and cafes that make noise at night is some alien thing, but when you look at the great cities around the world, and even in, I hate to say it, Fort Lauderdale, they figured out how to have mixed use, outdoor entertainment, after hours, with a code that contemplates the reality on the ground. And so, as I say that there's no question that residential is coming, there's no question that food and beverage outdoors is here to stay as well. And if you take away one or the other, you don't have a neighborhood, because a neighborhood has neighbors, and neighbors need to do something. And also, we would love to see some of our employees be able to live close by instead of having to drive in. And thank God Art is no longer with the MPA. Maybe the rates will come down. Okay, well, I tried. So on that note, I want to talk about, I had an experience, it was 2 years ago, I went to Barcelona. I was very lucky to attend a music festival there. Sorry. Very lucky to attend a music festival there, and where there was a temporary 3-day large-scale music event, the promoters paid a stipend to the residents that surrounded the short-term event. What we're saying at this point is enough with the temporary uses. The land values are high enough. We are mostly due for rent increases. We have to reinvest in our businesses to stay. And, you know, a lot of what Mana and Swarm have been throwing out there has forced us to consider, over the last 4 years, the lack of enforcement, what lost revenue there's been.
Earlier, I don't believe we actually have a sunshine violation, as this is noticed with the city. I think we're all legally able to be here and express abundance of caution, Commissioner Hartman. So we do what's called the sunshine dance. When we show up at a meeting that may not be sunshine, or one will step out while the other speaks. So because we will vote on this, and I want to let you know, my only brief statement here is to say that I am very willing to bring the amendments that are necessary to find the compromise to allow this community to find its consensus. You all have lived under a honeymoon, lightning in a bottle, if you will, that a bid has gone this long with a monolithic voice. It's very rare, and I serve on the Coconut Grove bid. I served there with Manny when he was there. It's very rare to have a unified voice, unanimous decision of stakeholders for the direction of a neighborhood. And that unified solidarity is what has made you so successful, is what allowed you to fight against Zika. You need to have this sort of unity as we're dealing with things like coronavirus. But in reality, what's happening now is probably more organic and natural. If we can de-escalate the rhetoric, the name-calling, the narratives. You all have the narrative of the rule of law. The Mana side has the narrative of the spirit of Wynwood. At the end of the day, this is developers at different phases of their development. And what you don't want is this to become a developer food fight, which will damage the reputation and brand of Wynwood that you all have created. You all received the NRD, which allows the development that's happening now. Mana received his SAP, which allows the development that he hopefully will enact at some point. He's not ready to do that, and so he has an empty space at the moment. And in that we have special area plans. We have temporary use permits, special event permits. Interestingly, those are one of the few activations which don't have a public hearing, which don't have a vote of the commission. These are administratively given through the city manager's office, the special event office, and rarely would even come to our desk unless we were reached out to by stakeholders, which in this case has happened. I think when the NRD was passed, probably have been a really good time to have the foresight to say, we're welcoming residential into this area. What's that going to do? What do we want that balance to be? But we didn't really do that fully at the time. We can do that now. And I really look forward to working with all of you. I've been speaking with the staff from Mana, I've been speaking with staff from the BID and several of the stakeholders with Swarm, And I'm just here to be open and represent all of you and find that consensus. I'm happy to help mediate whatever I can do, and in the end, bring the legislation. I hope that we don't demonize our administrative officials and our enforcement officials. There really should not be selective enforcement in the city. What appears to be selective enforcement through code or police usually is a product of lack of capacity. And in Wynwood's history, it is sort of skirted on the edge of being an irreverent neighborhood, and that's kind of given it the edge of the personality that it has. But once someone brings a violation to our attention as a city, whether it's code or police, we do have to act. And so the more that is brought in, it's going to hit both sides. It's going to hit all the existing brick and mortar restaurants, it's going to hit parking issues, it's going to hit residents, it's going to hit all of us. So the sooner we can get to a consensus of what we want the neighborhood to be, I'm happy to help you in whatever capacity I have to get there and work with all sides. So good luck and thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just before we hear from the next speaker, I just want to remind everybody to be considerate of others that want to speak as well. So I'm going to ask if we could try to keep our public comments to under 2 minutes. Certainly we want to hear and we appreciate your willingness to come up and speak, but just in the interest of time, there are a lot of people that do want to be heard today.
Good morning, my name is Vincent Morenza. I've been living and working in Wynwood for the last 5 years. I work at the Wynwood Brewery. I'm one of Wynwood 25's residents. Moved in when they first opened, and I also lived above Cush before that. I want to say I stand by the Wynwood bid. I want you guys to keep doing what's happening in Wynwood. I want to see the bars and restaurants stay open until 5 o'clock in the morning when our Basel comes into town. When the music Beyond that, I have no complaints on recently. I know Swarm has shut down and the noise has gone down quite a bit, but at the same time I do want to see special events like 3 Points come back and other special events. So Maps Backlot, I want to see what they have to offer for the next year and years to come. So thank you very much and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Jessica Goldman-Strebnick. I'm the CEO of Goldman Properties, daughter to Tony Goldman. My mom is here, my brother is here. We like to think of ourselves as the guardians of the neighborhood. We've been here for quite a long time. I want to start by saying thank you to the bid, because without the bid, without the formation of the bid, we would not be where we are today. And there's been an immense amount of commitment, of sacrifice, of time that has been spent on all of our behalves, from the people that are sitting there, the people that were sitting there before you. So I thank you for that, and it's incredibly important for us to remain a bid, to remain intact, and understanding that what they are representing represents all of us. We all want an inclusive community. We all want a community of all colors, not just on the walls, but on the faces. We want all kinds of things. We want people living here. We want people working here. We want people playing here. That is a vibrant community. Our family has been involved in vibrant communities and creating vibrant communities for 50 years. We understand what it takes, and it takes respectful conversation when we disagree. It requires truth in what is happening. And it's really unfortunate that the times in which we are living in, it is perpetrating this this escalated, unnecessary back and forth of airing of dirty laundry. And I implore Mr. Mana to come to the table respectfully with the entire community, and I look forward to today's conversation. I hope it will be a respectful conversation, because everybody in this room has really contributed blood, sweat, and tears to making this community the example around the world, because it is an example around the world of what an outstanding, inclusive, vibrant, creative community can be. And that's what we are, and that's what we expect. And everybody needs to play by the rules. That's why the rules are there. We create rules together, and everybody needs to play by them. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Joe First. I'm the co-founder
of the Wynwood bid from way back in the day, and was the bid's chairman from its inception until my term was expired last year. So I just wanted to add a couple of things. Obviously, you think you're a lot of the same type of tone, same type of messaging, but when we started working on the NRD, there was always a member from Mana's organization as part of the board. As Albert referenced, we had unanimous votes in everything that we did. You may recall a little bit of history when the bid and Mana were working through the special area plan that Moish was working through to try to create something exciting for the site, for the neighborhood. But I want to point out, in no point in that conversation was there any thought of not having residential development. I think the SAP, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, actually has the ability for 3,500 residential units. So it's a little bit confusing to me to start hearing now that residential is not what is part of the fabric of the neighborhood, when the massive entitlements that Mana got on this property contain a lot of residential. The last thing I want to point out is way back in the day when we started the idea of the Wynwood Cafe District, which was the first time we allowed for a series of alcohol establishments with the distance requirements and the parking requirements, that we were very cautious in calling that a cafe district. At that time, Moish was already invested here, as many others were. There was no sort of backlash against our idea of keeping alcohol times till 3 a.m. as opposed to 5 a.m. to make sure that we were fostering really a mixed-use environment that we were all going to be working towards down the road. So to be here today as a little bit of a neighborhood historian after my many years of service to the bid and of course my investments in work in Wynwood as part of the Goldman Properties family and now on my own, I think we all need to sort of look back in the mirror, see how this history all came to be, and understand that what we've all been working towards is really what we have now. And this little fight that we're having at the moment, I really think is the beginning of Wynwood's ultra bright future that we all work so hard to implement. So, thank you.
My name is Dr. David Polinsky. I'm also one of the co-founders of Wynwood Bid. And for good or bad, I'm probably the only person in the room who's actually read every single page of the NRD and all 172 pages of the SAP. In fact, I helped to negotiate both of those documents as the Planning and Zoning Committee Director at the Wynwood Bid. I think Mr. Mana's team is asking what I would consider a silly question, which is whether Wynwood wants to be either an entertainment district or a neighborhood that encourages the development of residences and offices. That question was actually discussed, evaluated, and answered definitively 5 years ago when we negotiated the NRD, and 4 years ago when we negotiated the SAP. And it was answered in a very coherent and unanimous way, which is that we want to be all these things at the same time. We want to be a center for the arts, for entertainment, for F&B, for residences, for offices. And I personally believe that all these uses can coexist happily in this great neighborhood. I think a more appropriate question would be whether it's time, in fact, to sunset TUPs. And for those who've been around the bid for a while, recall 2 years ago, the city of Miami introduced legislation that actually liberalized TUPs. The bid board at the time was actually opposed to that expansion because we were sensitive to this evolution of the neighborhood that Joe First and others were just talking about. But we decided to not take a resolution in opposition because this was a city of Miami issue at the time for rules affecting the whole of the city. And so we held back. But I do want to notice about TUPs. When I first moved here 8 years ago, Wynwood at night was primarily a neighborhood of both illegal and legal clubs operating on open lots with loud music and food trucks. And now, 8 years later, it's my understanding and my feeling that the only location where we have that same condition of outdoor music, food trucks, either with or without a permit, a TUP, is the Manor Properties. So the TUPs are right under city law. They're also, I'm going to say, within that 172-page SAP document, the TUPs are mentioned in only one place, in one paragraph, and in 2 sentences. And so it seems that there's a disconnect between the ask and the commitments of the SAP itself, which involved building potentially building 3,500 residences, creating entitlements for 33% more floor area, development rights for 33% more floor area, and 12 more stories than anywhere else in the neighborhood. So within the SAP territory, there are these very special rights, which are supposed to be brought about over time. It's been 3.5 years since that SAP was negotiated, and I'm not aware of a single building permit having been applied for from the Mana SAP. We all hope that Mr. Mana will succeed in bringing this great arts and entertainment and fashion and residential and office and F&B program to his 24 acres, but we've only seen TUPs so far. So in conclusion, I think there are really simple answers here to all of these issues. I think if Mr. Mana and Swarm are unhappy with the TUP that they've recently been granted from the City of Miami, they can go back and negotiate with the city to have it amended by coming into more full compliance with the life safety requirements and noise requirements of the City of Miami's existing legislation. I think the noise ordinance of the City of Miami, at least in the context of Wynwood, needs to be adjusted to a more reasonable standard and something that's not subject to capricious enforcement by code compliance officers. So I think we can loosen the standards, but do it in a way that's good for residences and Mr. Mana and the clubs which operate these great outdoor venues. And lastly, I think we should review whether it's time to sunset the right to apply for new TUPs within the district. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Philippe Khalifa. I'm the owner of El Patio Wynwood. I'm the president of the newly founded Wynwood Restaurant Bar Association. We started this association with pretty much a lot of bars in the area, and like Albert said, we're very competitive businesses. But we started to do this association because we were starting to be very scared of what's going on in the area. By the way, I want to really thank Albert for the help that he's been providing us since we started this association. And as well the newly elected city manager that talked with us yesterday. It was really a great thing for us to meet him, and hopefully we're going to work together in the near future. So basically, I think there's a reality that is on the field today that we really want to tell to people. We're trying to do the best we can to please everybody, and we feel that we're in the middle of this war that erupted between the city of Miami and Moshe Mana. And just to stand our position, we are not obviously for TUPs. We are brick and mortar businesses. We pay a lot of impact fees. We pay liquor licenses. We invest heavily in our business on a constant basis. And believe it or not, a lot of people think that we're millionaires because they see lights in front of our clubs, but we're not. We invest a lot. We spend a lot of money. It feels like every 2 weeks there's something that comes at us that we have to fix, and that we have to spend money to fix right away. And we don't feel that we're receiving the consideration that we're supposed to have because of all this, the things that we're supposed to do. As of today, as you know, there's been a huge problem with all bar businesses for noise complaints. We've been doing the best we can to address those complaints. Just for you to know, I've been in the area for 5 years. In 5 years, we never received a single complaint about noise, and I can attest it for all our businesses that are in the association that we never received a complaint. As besides last 10 days now, when it started, anonymous calls, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, who, we don't know, but apparently we're making too much noise. I can assure you that today, and I invite all of you to come in our bars every time we're open, the noise is so low that when I sing in my shower, you know, I'm just emitting more decibels than I'm emitting decibels in my business right now. That's true. The other businesses of my partners. It's starting to become a huge issue. We're scared for our investment, for our businesses. We see that clients are leaving. They might leave in another venue. They might leave in another neighborhood. But it's becoming a huge issue for us. We are complying, you know, with the ordinance that say that you can't hear music 100 feet away from your business. I don't think this ordinance is really makes sense today. The decibel needs to be at 80 decibels, which is extremely low. Like I said, you know, I measured in my shower, it's at 96 decibels, just sound of water. So it gives you an idea of how ridiculous, you know, the level that we need to respect is. I want to commend the Cure as well, because he's been increasing, talking with businesses and trying to reassure us, you know, the past 10 days, and that's a good thing, I think, and we need to continue doing that. But today, I think we just need, and I'm sorry for the time, I'm just trying to make it as quickly as possible, but every time we want to talk, you know, someone needs to go quick or this or that, so it will never be, we can never express what we want to say. So today we just want to try to, we want to work hand in hand with the City of Miami, with the city official, with the bid. We really want to do that. We want to be more represented as well in the bid. We want to be able to exchange with, you know, developers, because we know it's coming and we understand that, and we want to make sure, you know, that if buildings are coming, they're not going to be on us, but, you know, around us, and to be able to put a plan together to see how we can coexist, you know, live all together, and be able to obviously not make too much noise, but as well being able to be the social places that people are looking for, and want to spend a good time, obviously without disturbing others. So I really thank you for hearing us. I join everybody I require us to join this new association, to have one voice and to be able to talk with the officials and the bid. And thank you again.
My name is Nilka Gomez. I'm here representing Hager Law. I am the firm administrator for the law firm, and we want to thank everyone on the bid for a thankless job, and for the city officials and for the police officers and everything for making it such a better place to work. We have 25 employees, and we decided to move to Wynwood to create a Google Life environment. We have a work-life balance. We love being able to visit our local bars, our local businesses, visit our surrounding areas for lunch, but we do want to voice our concerns as far as the noise that we experience during the day. We have no problem. We obviously are going to hear our neighbors. That's just something that's going to happen. But we want to make sure that our neighbors are aware that at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, when we're on phone conferences and we have judges saying, "What's that loud noise?" it's really disruptive for our firm. And we just want to voice that concern. We're willing to work with everyone. We're willing to have that balance. It's not, like you say, you can't hear it at all. No. But we want to make sure that this is something that's voiced, because it's very disruptive for our firm. Thank you.
Before we go to the next speaker, I want to invite Chief Kalina, the City of Miami Police Department Chief, to say a few words. He, of course, has a city to run as well from a police force standpoint, but he's been a true advocate and supporter of this community for many, many years, including this organization. I'm sure he's a familiar face to many of you. So Chief Kalina is here and did want to share a few words with everybody in attendance.
Thank you, Albert. Just really quick, because I do have to run, I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. I patrolled this neighborhood from 1990 to 1993 when it looked really, really different. I was here on Saturday in this neighborhood eating and drinking. I was here on Sunday when I went to a watch party for Inter Miami and had a good time. I went to several different places. This neighborhood is an awesome neighborhood that many people from Many other areas come to visit from all over the world because it is pretty extraordinary. And I think it would just be a shame if we're not able to find some sort of middle ground in making sure that this neighborhood continues to thrive. Because it's still a neighborhood in transition. Many neighborhoods change over time, and that's okay. It's the people that change the neighborhoods, and we should just accept that. My commander has come under some criticism, and we're not perfect. I make mistakes. My decisions aren't always the best ones, but I make them from the heart and with the best interest of the city. I can assure you that the commander that I have working here cares deeply about this neighborhood. That's why he's here in the daytime. That's why he's here in the afternoon. That's why he's here in the evening. He's here on the weekends. He's here during special events. He's here when we have mega events like Super Bowl or Art Basel. And he's here, and he brings his family here, and he socializes here. And he does that because he loves the neighborhood. And I wish that all of my officers had that level of engagement where they actually love where they work. So I say all that to just say this. Please be mindful of your neighbors. Please be kind to each other. Please know that many people, not just one or two or somebody who came 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 20 years ago. It takes many, many people, many different people to build a neighborhood. And that's why Wynwood is what it is right now. Make sure that you put in effort to continue to grow this neighborhood instead of about thinking about ways of attacking each other. Make sure that you think about that, because you're going to be sorry if down the road you didn't do your part and this neighborhood becomes something that nobody wants. You're all going to be sorry about that. So you keep that in mind when you make your decisions. If you're going to attack someone personally, or if you're going to go after someone's livelihood, or whatever the case might be, you remember that you're going to build if you work together. That's the only way that's going to happen. And so I would challenge you all, be mindful of that. Find a way to work together, or you will destroy this neighborhood, and no one will be happy about that. Find a way, you can do it. I promise you I will do my part. And I've already had a meeting with the manager, and I know he's very motivated to do the same. We're going to do our part to find a way. Make sure, please, that you do your part.
Thank you very much. Next public speaker, please approach the microphone. And again, we're asking everybody to please limit their comments under 2 minutes if possible. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diana from Wynwood Shop, and I'm here because I've been reading about what's happening, and it seems that since 2017, finance firms have been operating illegally, pretty much. But then also I read when they did operate legally, sometimes they had permits that says 550 persons on an event, but they had 2,000 people on an event. That really results on a lot of garbage for the community, which is a main problem that we have, and also limit the parking for people that may be going to other businesses. So it is very disruptive that they're really not acting with respect to other businesses in the community, looking at what consequences may be harder more than them filling up their events with more people than what they presented to the city of Miami. On the other hand, the Save Wynwood campaign is based, for me, on lies, because they said that the bill proposed to close businesses at 11. We've heard many times from Manny and from other people today that that's not the case. Nobody's trying to end Wynwood walls or take off the graffitis. So they're doing a paid advertising right now through Instagram, telling people, do you want to close at 11, yes or no? So that's really like hurting everybody. I don't feel there is any respect for what they're doing with the Save Wynwood campaign, and I would really appreciate if that could be taken into another level, so that other businesses in the area are not affected by that. And then lastly, I really don't understand what...
Please speak into the microphone. Yep.
No? Okay. Lastly, I really don't understand what's the point and what's the outcome that they're trying to achieve. I don't know if they're trying to be policymakers for Wynwood. I'm really losing the point because the Save Wynwood is honestly like a petition that just says that they don't want to drain the color out of Wynwood and things like that, which it's gaining public support based on lies, and I don't really give any credit to that campaign. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Lombardi, Lombardi Properties. In 2001, I started investing here, and it became my life's work. I think everybody's kind of waxing poetically over what's really happened here. You know, and I'm friendly with Moish, and we've done business together, and I respect Moish. But I think he is aligned with a group, Swarm, that has behaved badly for a long time without any respect for the neighbors in this neighborhood. I'm a little disappointed that Commissioner Hardiman left because he really represents the citizenry that has been here well before me and Moish to the immediate south of the foreign trade zone, or MANA facility. And those people have been not able to sleep for 3-4 years, but they have very little voice. And only when Related built some apartments to the north side of that, the people moving in there had more of a voice, were more technical, and were more boisterous about the complaints. So I would say shame on Moish and Swarm for the way they've behaved. This is a classic misdirection. You know, they got slapped finally after 3 years for behaving badly, and their answer is, well, we don't want to comply, we'll just make a lot of noise. So, to me, this is like a little mosquito buzzing in our ear. This neighborhood is magnificent. This neighborhood is it's admired all over the world. Last week I had a group of urban planning students from the University of Quebec come here for a walking tour. The week before that, the kid's getting a graduate degree in real estate and architecture from the University of Miami attended a tour that I gave them of the neighborhood. Spotify announced they're coming here. That's enormous. That is flowing right into the vision we all had in 5, 6, 7 years ago when we created the NRD for live, work, play. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that Google and Apple are looking here. Mr. Mana owns about 3 properties in the Wynwood bid. That's it. He chose not to be part of the bid. Chose that. And he made his SAP, and like Joe first pointed out, he's entitled to have 3,500 apartments there. So the fact that he's now saying his vision is just work and party, 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 and no living, and living's going to kill the neighborhood, this is like a whirling dervish of misdirection. So let's all stop giving him all this credence. You know, let him do what he wants, but now he has to comply to the city. The city has to watch him, not all of us. We just need to keep doing what we're doing. This place is awesome, and so are all of you. You all add to the stew, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Good morning, bid members. My name is Ron Bloomberg. I have no prepared statements. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm an investor and developer in South Florida for 30 years, the first 15 of which I spent on Miami Beach. And when the business environment on Miami Beach became impossible to deal with from a permitting standpoint, from compliance standpoints and other things of that nature, I moved over to Miami where it was a little more business friendly. I'd like to say that that was the same that's the same thing that's going on today. It is certainly not. I own several properties, a half a dozen properties in Wynwood, the majority of which are east of North Miami Avenue. They go to the railroad tracks. I moved here with my business endeavors in the Wynwood area before it became the Wynwood bid. That was in 2011. And so before I mention on that, and Albert, this may take more than 2 minutes, and I appreciate a couple, and I appreciate it. I'm waiting for everybody else, okay? My business interests stretch from retail to office and to, in fact, nightclubs. That was the first thing that drew me to Wynwood. In 2011, I reactivated a 5 a.m. liquor license establishment that was approved in 2003. It sat dormant for 8 years. It was reactivated. It was reactivated through a very rigorous process, including going before the PZAB, where we got a 5 a.m. liquor license establishment for a 1,500-foot radius, which stretched from 20th Street to 29th, from Biscayne Boulevard to Northwest 2nd Avenue. And I paid a fair amount of money to resuscitate that, keep that established. There were some problems with getting the building permit resuscitated and off the ground, and I'm happy to say we finally were able to get that open, despite the NRD being created, and a cafe district that was able to deploy liquor license applications for, I'm not even sure how many users. But we were prepared to live with that. We felt that it was worthwhile to keep this 2-hour additional latitude to justify the investment. And accordingly, I made additional investments in the Wynwood Business Improvement District, and I'm very active there right now. I think one of the big problems that I have, and I'm sure I'm looking at a lot of faces in the audience here, can realize and understand and fully appreciate, is that the bricks and mortar establishments go through the most incredibly rigorous process to not only get permitted, but to get open. Permitting, you go out and celebrate. 9 months after you submitted your plans, you have a permit. A year and a half later, you're lucky if you have your final occupational license and certificates of use. The certificate of use is what's driving our ability to stay open. Anybody who's opened an establishment, a taco stand, a restaurant operator, an office developer, knows what it takes to get a CU to operate. We have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars established as bricks and mortars operators. And so it's an insult to us that someone could go in and make a few phone calls and get a temporary use permit or a special use permit, have an establishment open up, do an internet blitz, and create a party for thousands of people. They blow in one weekend, they blow out the next, and who's responsible for cleaning it up? The bricks and mortar owners, who have to sweep the streets and clean it up, or they're going to get code violations from code enforcement and noise and all these other things. And I'm sharing with you as the owner of property on 24th Street that's been complying by the rules, that's been staying open, that's been begging the bid and the commission to have their extra 2 hours when everybody else, hundreds, are being given the grant to stay open until 5 a.m. on special occasions, are having to fight that. Commissioner Hardiman left here. He required us to indemnify the city with a special insurance policy to stay open for 2 extra hours, which we did. We're the only one in the history of the city and in the Wynwood bid that have to pay for an extra insurance policy to stay open. That's insanity. It's insanity. And so the issue here, and I can also share with you that in the last 10 days since these blogs have gone out, and this has gone out, my properties have received three separate code violations. We've been operating for several years with no code violations. All of a sudden getting code violations. I'm the only one operating with a 5 a.m., proper 5 a.m. establishment. It's not fair to the business owners that lay down the roots here. And let's be clear about something. As developers, we're nothing without our tenants. We're nothing without our tenants. Every tenant who lays down roots and pulls a permit is a developer in his own right. We develop buildings, we create wallscapes for artists. We create office space, we create retail space, we create restaurant space. Sometimes we miss the timing, sometimes we miss the mark, and sometimes we get it right. But when this type of situation happens, where it's SAPs, temporary use permits, special use permits can be ascertained with a few phone calls and no compliance with utility connections and trash cleanup and insurance and security deposit to do the cleanup, the bricks and mortar operators are getting crushed, the tenants are getting crushed, and this area goes into the twos. Now, all the other neighborhoods in Miami and the rest of South Florida don't have the cohesive organization that this bid has created, that the founding members, the real estate investors and developers created, and they had the foresight to create a bid and go to the city for the approval. But there's a disconnect with what's going on with the bid and what's happening at the city from an administrative level and a commission level. And it's angering, to say the least. And I couldn't sit here anymore without expressing my frustration, my anger, not only as a developer, but as a partner in the nightclub operation that I'm involved with, and having had some behind-the-scenes conversations with bricks and mortar people. I don't know what the exact solution is, but the SAP is something that's granted as, it's a privilege. And when is it going to be used? Or is it going to be sitting there as an empty lot so special plans and special permits can be issued 4 days a week, 365 days a year with different addresses? The whole special permit process has been misguided, and it's a problem that needs to really be dug into deep and looked at. If we're going to comply with the rules that have been laid out, let's have strict enforcement for those rules. If it's a 3 a.m. hard close, great. If it's a 5 a.m. hard close, great. That's what the police have been trying to do, and some of them under harsh criticism. And to do a 311 phone call as an anonymous person to call code compliance out, they get 1,000 calls a night. And it's a misdeployment of code enforcement officers and police enforcement. So that's something else that needs to be looked at. So my apologies if I've taken too much time and I've gotten a little bit excited and a little bit angered here, but I can't help it, I am. And I know I'm speaking for every bricks and mortar person that's applied for a permit and tried to get a CU. I hope more of them come up here and speak their mind. Thank you very much.
I think we're working on the microphone, see if it works.
Not working?
It's not, I'm not sure if the sound technician can open up the microphone, but while we're still working on our technical issues, please speak louder so that we can hear you.
My voice will carry. I'm told that all the time.
It's working, you're good.
Okay, I represent a different constituency here. I'm an artist, and I came to Wynwood. First time I saw it, I could feel it. But before Wynwood, I was in Soho in the 1970s, when it was not legal to live there. And it was us who began that neighborhood. And Tony Goldman was there. And then, lo and behold, a few years later, I'm in Philadelphia. I was one of the first artists into a neighborhood known as Northern Liberties, when it was illegal to live there because it was an industrial zone. And Tony Goldman was there working with mural arts. Tony Goldman's family represent the most interesting civic project that I have seen, and I have been all over the world. That park that they call Wynwood Walls is the result of years of experience in inner city development and the knowledge of how to exploit, develop, and encourage the very pioneers who led the way to that neighborhood. They saw the excellence that the artist could see before anyone else. Now, on the other hand, Mr. Manat operates, I was in David Lombardi's building. I live in David Lombardi's wonderful building, by the way. And I love that building. We are not ever going to have buildings like that again because the city has not stepped in and realized that there has to be housing for artists that's affordable. Not artists who can pay $4,600 a month for 800 square foot spaces, but rather artists who need 1,000 to 2,000 square foot space to be artists. Okay? That's not going to happen now. We passed that place. The other thing that the city needs to do is realize we need to have public spaces, trees, places to sit down, areas where people can live and be a community. Now, somebody was saying something about what's going on in those businesses. I live here. Those people that are coming to that crappy bubble shop and to those festivals on Manat's property there,
They're coming from the suburbs. They don't care about this neighborhood. They're throwing trash on the street. They are not local. But those neighborhoods that I mentioned earlier in New York and in Philadelphia are thriving, have vibrant businesses because they compose communities of residential, business, and if it doesn't have a roof over it, the first speaker said, you know, outdoor space. We have that. Go along 2nd Avenue. Those are lovely little spaces. You can sit outside and have a drink. But Bubble City is not an outdoor space. That's just a noise factory of rowdy, drunken people throwing trash on my front step at 2 o'clock in the morning, having sex acts behind the bushes, behind my building. It's not a community. These people don't belong. And you want to make a business? Build a building and put your business inside and put a nice outdoor sitting area. Build some housing for artists and for creative people. Do something creative. Don't just exploit us because, you know, there's not very many of us now here. I bought my space, but most of the others are gone, all right? I can smell development. You can put me in a city and I can tell you this is where it's going to be. But I'm not interested in development. I'm interested in living a vibrant. Miami is the best city in Florida and the most interesting city in the entire south of the United States. And we deserve it. We don't need casinos. We don't need drinking until 5 o'clock in the morning by suburbanites who drive in and then throw their trash and leave. We need a community of creative, imaginative, interesting, diverse people. I love the fact that I hear languages spoken on the street. People get out of expensive cars and speak foreign tongues. I feel safe in Wynwood. I feel at home in Wynwood. This is where we artists belong. Don't take it from us. So you can have some suburbanites come in and pretend they're artsy for 4 hours of drinking.
My name is Claudia. I live in Wynwood. I'm a resident. I live at Wynwood 25. It's a wonderful building. I love living there. I moved to this neighborhood because I wanted to live somewhere walkable and vibrant. I wanted to live, the way that I chose this neighborhood, I was living in San Francisco. I started making a Google map of where all of the bars and restaurants and clubs are, and I found that the biggest density of them was right here. And so I chose to live in Wynwood 25 because it was the place that I could walk in the middle of the night to wherever I wanted, go get a drink, go out with my friends, come back to the roof of Wynwood 25 and have a party. So that's basically what led me to this area. I feel personally as a resident a bit caught in between about the temporary use permit stuff. I don't really have a strong point of view on that, but I do just want to say as a resident that I embrace the noise, I love the noise, I'm here for the vibrancy. And I want to keep this neighborhood an artsy, exciting, vibrant place where I can go out with my friends at 3 in the morning and then walk around and feel like every kind of person is welcome in this neighborhood and that I can have a great time living here. And I think there are ways to find compromises. For example, I think if you are an outdoor bar and it's 3 in the morning and you don't have a lot of residents around and it's a Tuesday, switch from like oons techno to chill electronic music. So there are things like that I think that we can do to just be good neighbors. But I also think that it's wonderful that this is a place where all different kinds of people can thrive and enjoy living in a vibrant place. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Jeff Mitchell. I'm new to the Wynwood area. I actually just moved here on December 24th, the day before Christmas. I relocated my whole family to this area when I seen what it became. I remember Wynwood being one of the roughest parts of Miami you didn't want to drive down. I lived here for over 25 years. I moved my businesses here. I closed down 2 businesses to be located in Wynwood. I actually am a vendor at Swarm. I did not expect y'all guys to shut down Swarm or whoever, how it ever happened. I don't know the exact information. I'm trying to gather as much as I could. But you guys have to realize, as a vendor, you guys shut down my income, and I'm living at Wynwood 25, like I said, at $4,000 a month rent, which I think is great. But I located my whole family there. That's my son, my 2 daughters, and my wife. And I would have did that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Y'all have to remember, this is a community. There's going to be arguments against and for everything. But you have to come to a compromise. Okay? And try to get quorum back up, maybe limited, but there are vendors there that's going to eventually become brick and mortar shops. I know you guys don't want to hear that. That's what I'm looking for right now. But at $150 a square foot, it's kind of expensive. All right? So I just wanted to say that.
Albert, I'll be 2 minutes. Folks, I got just a couple of simple things to say. First of all, well, I helped form...
David, it's your name? Your full name?
Sorry, David Collins. I worked with this bid in the very first days, forming the bid with some very devoted stakeholders in this community. On the day of the election, I sat where the booth, the voting booth was, and stared. I was at a legitimate distance and stared at the image of Tony Goldman smiling at this place. So I'm honored to be here with you. Okay, a couple of simple things. New Orleans has the oldest bid in America. Their first and most complex discussion was on this very issue. You know, fancy people would move to the quarter and then they'd say, what the hell is all this noise? So I'm reminded of what Lombardi said to me when he hired me to consult with y'all. He said, David, we need your help, but please give me your promise that you won't screw up Wynwood. And folks, you have not screwed up Wynwood. I remind you that a bid is important as a vehicle. It never really arrives at one final place. What you hope to do is get the smartest and most enlightened people in the community to come together and make decisions. Today is evidence that you have done that and are doing it. New Orleans solved their problem. This is going to be a speck on your future. Everybody should relax, figure out a way to communicate with Mr. Manna. And you must know that Albert Garcia, whom I went to personally, because I heard he was an important stakeholder in this community, and I said, Albert, we need you at the table, so I'm mighty pleased to see you still there, sir. One final word on a gentleman I hired about 11 years ago. I formed the Grove bid and ran it for a while. I came here and helped you folks form this bid. Then I went to Lincoln Road and formed their bid in Washington Avenue and spent about 1.5 years in Cayocho and Lincoln Ocean Drive, and they're both going to have bids before they're done. And here's what I have to say to you. You yourself, as making important decisions, trust this bid. They are going to fight for every one of you, including the very last speaker at this microphone. I know it because they're fair and because they're they have a really enormous understanding of consensus. So if you feel your voice is not being heard, give Albert Garcia a call. Better yet, phone Manny. I hired Manny 10 or 11 or 12 years ago in the Grove bid. And folks, you've got people here who have served. I mean, your new manager of the city of Miami is one of the founders of the Grove bid and has served on their board for years. There are people that understand what business improvement districts are. They're not a place you go in and throw your weight around and say, I should know this, right? I'm the biggest guy in the room, so you're going to listen to me, damn it. And that's just it. Forget about the rest of it. You need to know that Manny Gonzalez, far and away, is the most competent and inspired bid administrator in Florida And he compares well with much of what's happening in New York City, where the role is defined. Manny Gonzalez is smart, respectful, and he's a warrior. So stand with that guy. I'm so proud of you as a board.
Thank you everybody for coming out today. I'm a local business owner here. I've been active for over 30 years. I'm also part of the film community here, and I was an original tenant of Tony Goldman back on South Beach, and I saw the great things that he did for us. And it kind of reminds me of this threshold that we're on. And originally, it all started with the film industry here. You know, Miami Vice came to town, and South Beach was a run-down place. Nobody really wanted to go there. And we came into the national spotlight through film, and it really made something special. I moved here and I bought a property here over 20 years ago to actually park my vehicles here, and everybody said I was crazy. Why would I even come in this neighborhood? And everybody knows that. I've watched this area grow. I've been active in this area, and I'm a little upset that this has turned into this fighting ground that it is now, that we're stuck in the middle of this thing on people that have done the right thing, that invested in this community. I own an assembly hall, as well as Paulie and a couple of the others that are here. And we're going through the same thing. Yes, we have an outdoor space. And I understand that part of the ammunition that's left is that this noise ordinance is on the table. So it seems to be the only way that they can control everything that's going on for us to be able to stay late. I don't want to be that guinea pig in the middle. I want to grow with this community. I want to make sure that it goes on and we continue to do business here and keep it something special. You know, my film clients come into town, I jump in my golf cart, I drive them around, they look at the streets, and I'm proud of this neighborhood. I want to continue to be proud of it, and I want the bars, I want the restaurants to be able to stay open, keep it something special. Now, my last closing note, I was a little upset also that Commissioner Hardeman left, because normally he's the one that sponsors during our special weekends to be able to stay open later. We have Winter Music Conference coming up. I have people that are booked into my place, and I'm concerned that now we're not going to go to be able to get this, to be able to stay open later. I know in the past, bid has been behind us with helping us keep this open. I'm hoping we're going to be able to do that, and you know, at least take it step by step and see how we can make this grow together and keep this together. You see it happen in other cities. You know, look at Nashville. They have live music that's out there. There's cities that, hey, you know, if you go downtown in New York, they've made special lines. People that wanted to live in the cities, they did soundproofing into their windows instead of cheap apartments that are being built to be able to help, you know, keep the noise level down. People come to this place because it is something special. I'll leave my time down. I want to thank everybody for coming in. The owner of Sojourn Backline and Real Life Films. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon. I represent Duganel Jamaican Kitchen, 316 Northwest 24th Street, and just along with many other business owners. Wynwood is great. We're diverse, multicultural. People come to Wynwood to have fun, to party, to hang out, the millennials. And the noise ordinance, it has everybody walking on eggshells. If you're a business owner anywhere in that area right now, you're already thinking about St. Patrick's Day. Can we have a noise ordinance? Can we play music? Can we stay open a little later? Duganel and so many other vendors, we kind of play by the rules. We hire the officers, they work our detail. We just want our voice to be heard just like everybody else. I went over to Central last week, and just to support, to have a couple of drinks, and the music was so low, I asked the bartender, I said, man, are you guys about to close? Are you closing early today? They said, no, it's just because everything that's going on right now in the press. So I believe the owners of Duganel Jamaican Kitchen were confident that the board can get it right and that there will be a resolution. But in the meantime, please, let Wynwood continue to grow, let Wynwood continue to thrive with the music, with the noise ordinance. Hopefully we can come to some common ground. Also, with being open till 5 a.m., a lot of us, brick and mortar is the only way we do make business. We have to kind of extend our hours, and hopefully we can continue to grow. And we're a part of the community. We're here to stay, and we support everybody. 1-800-LUCKY, Central, grants, I mean, you name it. So I think we're all here as one common goal, and that's to grow and for our voice to be heard. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Alan Kett. I'm the co-founder of the Museum of Graffiti here in Wynwood. We are in one of Urban Learners buildings here, and we're very happy and excited to be in this neighborhood. We were attracted to this neighborhood because of the vibrancy of the neighborhood brought on by the Wynwood Walls and all that they've done, and all the artists from all over the world that come to this neighborhood. And we wanted to build a business that adds to that neighborhood, that's complementary. And so we started this business to bring more artists to the neighborhood, to bring more vibrancy, more walls to be painted. And we love being here. And it's a challenging neighborhood to be in, of course, with all this commotion, I guess, that's going on with all of your businesses, with the rents going up, and with and the development that's coming that's going to impact perhaps the walking traffic of the neighborhood that we rely on. And I wanted to point out that this neighborhood, as much as it's a sort of a live, work, play neighborhood, is a neighborhood that's really built on the arts. And I sometimes wonder if that's disappearing. Will the Wynwood Walls be the only thing that's here left to bring tourists in to appreciate the arts? And I say that because in a lot of the buildings in the neighborhood, you start to see advertising walls going around and walls being lost that artists have been painting for quite a long time. But now it's a Stella beer ad, or some other Patagonia beer ad, beers that I've never even heard of, or all kinds of things. But what was there before are ads that have artists, maybe from other parts of the world, that have come here and that have donated their time, donated their materials, just to be taken out by some company that doesn't really have much of a stake here. But maybe they're supporting some of the bars here, but give away free beers at the bar or something else versus destroying the artwork in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jose from Central Wynwood. Just wanted to touch over a few topics, one of them being the main crackdown on code compliance. Our biggest issue is we've had the music so low that when they come visit us, they overhear the people talking and they still want to use the fire. I think the 100 feet needs to be revisited, more of a decibel meter, but sometimes if you go 100 feet, you hear the people talking louder than when you have the music in your venue. So that's something I think we should really take a look at and revisit. That's all I was saying.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Harris. I live at Wynwood 25. I'm an artist. I moved to Wynwood because I wanted to live in this kind of community. I have a slightly different experience of living at Wynwood 25 with the noise. We recently had a meeting of residents in the building to try to come up with some way to interact with the businesses to deal with the noise problem, because I think the majority of the residents are experiencing noise at such levels that they can't sleep. It is so loud you can't hear your own television. Now we have very good windows because I can't hear the airplanes, yet I can hear the music so loud that even with the sound machine and everything closed up in my apartment, it's incredibly loud, and it's incredibly loud all night long, especially Thursday through Sunday. So I don't really know what the answer is. I don't think any of us want the businesses to close or close early. We just want there to be a more moderate level of noise. Almost all the businesses have some sort of outdoor space, and the music is so loud that I imagine that the people who work there are all going to be deaf someday. I mean, it's that crazy. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think that there's a lot of residences that are being built right now, and there's going to be a lot more people living here, and it's going to be an ongoing problem. So just want to put our word out there, and thank you for listening.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Coco. I own Sheep on 24th Street. I just became the vice president of the Wynwood Restaurant and Bar Association. For the reason that I want us to coexist, I work together with Paul Perez, with David Polinsky, and Oli from us to coexist. When we first opened the outside area 6 months ago, I had a conversation with KP. He was like, please make sure that you're in compliance with the noise. We did it. We built additional speakers, and we didn't have a single complaint on the gate right across Wynwood 25. There is a way to comply with everything. There is a way to work together. Without the developers, we're no one. When I moved to 24th Street was a nightmare. I thank Tony Polinsky, whereas 24th Street is probably one of the most beautiful streets right now. So there's a way for us to coexist. There's a way to work together. We're going to make sure that we are within compliance and within the Restaurant Bar Association, which is most of us for the group. And whoever is not compliant with it is going to be protected by the association. So I just want to say that we're going to work together, and we're happy to meet every month whenever we have to solve these issues. Thank you. Okay, so I think that wraps up the public comments portion of our meeting. Just want to make sure if there's any last folks out there. I think we've heard from just about everyone that wanted to speak, but wanted to make sure we weren't missing anyone. All right, public comments is now closed. So remember I told you I was going to kind of guide you along how these meetings typically work for those of you that have never been to one of these meetings. So now we turn it back to the board, and we open it up for discussion. So, you know, out of fairness to my respected colleague on the board, Leslie Sharp, who is the general counsel of Man and Wynwood, I want to give her the first opportunity to speak, to share her thoughts. I know it's got to be a rough spot to be on the board, and also getting incoming and maybe even internally too. So, you know, Leslie, the floor is yours, and then what I'd like to have is then allow any board member, of course, in an orderly fashion, similar to how we have public comments. If you have anything to add, to share, please do so constructively, respectfully, and then I will attempt to put together an action plan. For those of you that are leaving, I just want to let you know that the bid board is having its regularly scheduled monthly meeting a week from tomorrow on Wednesday, March 11th at 11 a.m. at WeWork. I'm not a fortune teller, but I suspect a lot of these issues that we heard before us today are going to be front and center on our agenda, and we're going to be working as expeditiously as possible to mitigate these concerns and build consensus with everyone here, plus Mr. Manna, and everyone else who couldn't make it here today. So I just want to put that out there for everyone who may not be here till the end. Leslie, the floor is yours.
Thanks. First, I just wanted to mention that at the last bid board meeting, I was on, I guess, an unfortunate timing, pre-planned family vacation, but I did hear your comments.
Speak it to the microphone.
It's not working? Okay. What I started to say was that I wanted to mention first that at the last bid board meeting, which I believe was about 2.5 weeks ago, I guess I was on an unfortunate timing, pre-planned family vacation, but I did hear what all of you had to say via telephone. I was listening, and I did hear what you had to say. Look, I know everybody here and everybody watching has seen the text messages and read the text messages. And while we might not all agree on the approach and the way that people have commented or the way that people have handled things, I believe that we all have the same goals in mind. And I believe that we all want the same things at the end of the day. Just like Adam from Graham said, Mana, like everybody else in this room, has given everything to this neighborhood. His long-term vision takes time. While we're planning and raising money to build out this long-term vision, we've temporarily activated some of our properties and brought diversity to the neighborhood and partnered with local entertainment groups who bring a rainbow of people from all cultures at an affordable cost. Whether temporary or permanent uses, we are landlords at the end of the day for right now, and we expect our tenants to comply with the law.
I am here on behalf of the Mana organization, which is the largest tax contributor to this bid. And Albert, I heard you say, and mention